It's the Lake Elmo City Council to fund a pilot of 25 people that we and help support the money for the purchase. We installed those last year. Each person installed those last year. We had a savings last year, and now we're in the second year. And the best thing about that, that's why I'm most encouraged about this, is the Lake Elmo City Council decided to go forward and offers all the citizens that use city water a subsidized purchase of these irrigation controllers. So I don't know what their take is so far, but that's what they did as a result of that. And then I have a turf. I'm interested in your conversation about prairie to turf because I'm doing that also, and my neighbors are not impressed with the first year of the prairie.
Yeah, that'll happen. It looks kind of scrubby at first, and then it'll come in really nice.
I think you're being kind when you say scrubby.
Year 3. You just have to have faith. Let's see. How about Joan?
Unmute myself. Well, Nathan is occupied. He said he might drop in if I move to the dining room, but he's not around. So actually more of what's been going on is kind of his work, I would say. How many years ago? I don't know when I finished. 3 years ago?
It was 3 years ago.
Yeah, and so what's very strange is a piece of that capstone project never happened. And it appears that now in September, the 2 schools, both Lake Middle School and Middleton Elementary, which are part of the South Washington School District, will actually be putting in their plantings that were part of a design that—
This year, this is when it's finally going to happen.
This September, it's supposed to happen.
I'm really glad to hear that, and I didn't know that yet either. This is one of the problems of us all working remotely, is that it's just so much harder to keep up with one another on when things are scheduled.
Well, that's what it looks like for September 17th, and then the 20th and 21st, and the teachers and and the administrators are in charge of organizing whatever will work. There will not be the educational component that I thought I would be involved in previously, due to the fact that the idea was that middle school classrooms would come together in a large room and the week prior, and there would be more of that going on. So it's going to happen more in place, it looks like. I am not centrally involved. I know it's happening, and it's being coordinated, of course, with Tony. The watershed district, I'm not sure what is he.
Yeah, I'm not sure what his title is either, now that he is at the watershed district.
But nonetheless, yes, and so both my original Master Water Steward Capstone Project partner and myself have had health challenges this year, some significant health challenges, which will impact our capacity to be there over a longer period of time. So we'll be working out exactly in what way we'll be involved, but that will finally happen, and it's fun to know that that's finally going in. And there is a particular teacher over at Middleton Elementary who's just been so wanting this and for so long.
Yeah.
So he is going to be happy.
I should be looking in the background while you're saying this, because Tony just sent me a note that there was a Boy Scout troop. I think this was last week. He had just sent me a note saying that there was a Boy Scout troop that was Woodbury Scout Troop number 5, and they were out at one of those schools doing some kind of work. It was not exactly specified what the work was, but he sent this note saying, "Oh, we were just working with them today, and they did some amazing work to get." So
maybe get things ready for something. I don't know.
Doing something at that project. They must have been doing, weeding or planting or mulching. I don't know what they were doing, but something.
Perhaps mulching, something to. But anyway, so neither my partner nor I are directly involved in coordinating, but we've just been consulted and informed, and we will be involved in some way, perhaps in just laying out plants prior. We'll see what happens. Actually, in a lot of the educational activities, which I had planned on doing, were all canceled because school was canceled. And so a lot more of what I've been doing is kind of adopt the drain activities.
Okay, that's great.
I adopted one, but I oversee a much larger area. in checking in on that a couple times a month. And then the big thing for us is really more Nathan's initiative, but it's an ongoing thing together. And that is, well, two things. One, the project behind the house was kind of put on skids. And I don't know, on hold. He could share that with any other people, but had to do with communication issues with the city.
Oh, okay.
And what was being done, which perhaps was perceived as not a part of the original permit to do.
That's unfortunate.
So that was a very unfortunate situation, but nonetheless, at this point, there has been no communication back from the appropriate peoples. So Nathan decided to just make this the year to work on our yard. And so a big event was our street and curbs were all taken out as one of those projects in the area. So we had a chance to rethink what we were going to do, since 3 to 5 feet from the street was out. We had to have things out of the way if we wanted them out of the way. So our whole front flower bed, which is toward the street, has been redone in both plants and seedlings that began from seeds Nathan started in his little nursery, in terms of native plant life. And so I'm assuming that next year it's going to be even looking nicer, but several flower beds in our yard have been pulled apart and replaced with a lot of native plantings, both for shade and the dry for prairie. And that's been a big thing. And then along the edge, we put, instead of having the city spray in grass seed, Nathan had purchased a particular type of grass, which is a fescue brand, a combination that's supposed to be hardy. Anyway, it's growing well, and people constantly, as they will go walking by, look at the front area. So it's something that's happening. I just heard.
Very cool. On the adopted drain note, a happy note, Washington County, we now have more than 500 storm drains adopted.
Ooh.
So that's good.
Well, I wonder how many other people have adopted them, but not, signed
Yes,
up. Which I know
and we
happen.
do know in our area in particular, I know there are a lot of storm drains that exist that for whatever reason do not show up on the website. There's ones all over in my neighborhood. In fact, the one in front of my house doesn't show up on the website. And I kind of have limited energy to try to track down all of the city GIS maps and figure out, and get the right information to the right people to update it. But I have heard from a lot of people that have informally said, well, I'm just doing that, or I just started doing it now that I know that I should, and just didn't sign up online. So yeah. Pam, I see you next.
Hi.
And also welcome, Martin.
Hi there. Yes, I live in West Lakeland, and a couple of my intended capstone projects were diverted, but I ended up with a rain garden project that turned out just fabulous. I started it in June and can't believe how well it's developed over the summer. I've learned a lot about the native plants and which ones the deer and the rabbits like. So we're going to be trying to replace some of those with some that they dislike. But it turned out just wonderfully, and it's kind of a sheet flow design to capture water coming off of a slope. So it's a little bit different than probably the more common ones of catching water off of a rooftop or something like that, or near a pervious driveway or something like that. So it's been an interesting experience trying to learn how to level things on a slope, and so it was a little challenging, but it's doing well. I also got involved in the Adopt a Drain program and became a member, so that's been going very well within the neighborhood. And then I contacted everybody that I knew and got probably about a dozen drains.
Awesome. Yay.
So yeah, so that went really well. I did some neighborhood projects with the kids. I sent out through our neighborhood connection some water projects for them to do, and experiments with seeds and that sort of thing. And then I've been watching the webinars, which have been fantastic. I actually have found one that was really great, that wasn't really a part of our webinars in our area, but Doug Tallamy, who we've mentioned before, the entomologist, had a fantastic webinar. So just kind of exploring some other things to learn about not only Minnesota issues, but my husband and I were in Hawaii, and I learned about their invasive plant issues, which, like our buckthorn, is just predominating most of the islands. So they have a thing called myconia, which is, I wouldn't even want to try to tackle that one. It sounds even worse than buckthorn. But just learning it, I think this whole experience since I started in October with the program, I've been more aware of my surroundings, especially when I'm hiking and jogging in the parks. And so it's been interesting. I might be doing a native plant count over at the Lake Elmo Park Reserve. So they try to keep an eye on their native plants, make sure that they're healthy. And of course, everyone's probably seen the goats over there. If you haven't,
Yeah.
fantastic job of killing out the invasive species. So yeah, so that's pretty much how I've been spending my time.
Very cool.
Hmm.
Let's see, Stephanie, you want to go next?
Sure. I'm Stephanie Wong. I am actually with Anna Barker, my original partner. We're part of the Ramsey, Washington Metro Watershed District. So Angie, thank you for inviting us. But we both live in Woodbury, and it's been an interesting year. We have been at this since 2016 is when we started. And so our capstone is in, I've been working more in terms of other projects. For those of you who live in Woodbury, you may or may not know about the Tamarack Nature Preserve. It's a green space right across from the City Hall. And Angie, if you're okay, I'd like to share my screen.
Oh, sure. I think I have to make you be, yes,
Or
a
a
co-host,
co-host.
and then you should be able to.
Okay.
So give
The
me
reason I
one
wanted to share my
second.
screen is because there's a couple of things happening in the Tamarack Nature Preserve this year. I volunteer with a group of, I think we're at 8 volunteers right now. We do some invasive species removal. We do educational things. In fact, we started working with, I did several tours for Lauren when she was still here, along with Angie, and also doing it for communities. So we've got a group of Girl Scouts coming through, or Brownies actually coming through in late September. This year, as everyone knows,
You should be able to share now, by the way, Stephanie, because I switched you over.
So everything this year is a little bit different. And in our Tamarack Nature Preserve, we had to figure out how to do things separately but together. So we did our Earth Day cleanup separately but together. So we had instructions. We coordinated with the city on how to do that, and actually, I think took out more trash over a period instead of doing it only over a couple hours with large group of people. We had probably twice as much removed by the city at certain drop-offs than we normally do. We have, for those of you who know, there is, let's see, there is a lot of building going on in this area. So what I'm showing you right now is a couple of things that I've been building to highlight the Tamarack Nature Preserve. Can you see the screen?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, okay, so this is we are hoping to celebrate kind of two things: a boardwalk reopening, which hopefully will be in late September, early October of this year. And it also comes at the tail end of the installation of the temporary water treatment plant that went in here. So this is something that I put together, and it's pretty quick, but it's built off of Street View, so Google Street View. So in this, I can put things in here like historical photo of the area, along with some text. There's information about the park itself, the water treatment plant. As I go through, you can hear the voiceover. Can you hear that?
No,
Yeah.
I think if you're sharing the sound, you have to, like before you share your screen, you have to click on share sound. Now I can hear it.
Yeah, now?
lost its leaves. So it's great to come back.
So that's an overview from,
see what things are blooming, what things are changing color.
and then I'll chain that off. So this is some overviews of areas along with and some more. So this is kind of one of those things that we wanted to do is make the Tamarack Nature Preserve kind of accessible for people who can't actually visit. You can get a feel for what it looks like. There's some information about buckthorn, how to get, someone had mentioned invasive removal. And then
and this large
some
system
more
here
clips.
is a large glacial meltwater channel that was formed, 10,000.
So that's what I've been looking at. That's I'm going to put myself back on my, oops.
Share this with the association.
So this is one item. Another item that we're looking at doing is creating a map. We know that people get lost in the area. So we have, in fact, I think we've, since the volunteers all live kind of in the neighborhood, we've come across people who are crying or have crying children hanging on to them because they don't know how to get out. So, so this is together with the Ramsey Washington Metro Watershed District, an attempt to put together a map to show what, we have several complaints. One is, how do you find it? Because nobody can find entrances. How long is it? How come the trail is wet? And where do we, so hopefully this is an attempt to resolve that by making it available online, along with some text about what we can see. And the text would be available along with links to things like, for those of you who are e-birder or are birders, to some of the things like our eBird list. We also have an iNaturalist project created by Dana Boyle with lots of species in here. So more information that we can get to from the map. So one other thing to pull this all together, like I said, this is all intended to kind of bring to the reason for all of this is because we're hoping to celebrate the reopening. And hopefully, Angie, you had already said yes, but we played a wonderful, and we're hoping to bring, have Angie bring that to our celebrate independently, or kind of our socially awkward reopening celebration of having people do things on their own. So there'll be the stormwater pollution mystery, which is really fun. I saw Anna out there at Carver Lake Park, and we were looking for clues, kind of a very simplified geocache, but it was great. So along with that, we hope to put in interpretive signs. So the city has said they will put interpretive signs as well as wayfinding signs. And these are the context or the text for the signs that we will have in place, and the Watershed District has already okayed it. But for instance, what kind of plants will you see? The city has said that they will purchase a QR code, and the QR code is meant for many of you who already know it. You can use your phone to scan it, and this QR code will take you to the map that I just showed you. About some of the things that we've seen, you know, what do you look for, as well as what can you do to help preserve. Invasive species information. Angie, you're going to recognize the text or the image here because I stole this from one of your slides.
Yeah.
Again, how come our trails are wet? Well, that's because it is. This, I forgot to add the watershed map, but it's essentially the sub-watershed flow. And then, yeah, that's it. So.
This is really cool, Anna. I'm sorry, Anna. Stephanie.
Anna, yeah, that's okay. Anna's cool
I had
too.
no idea all of the stuff that you were working on. So this is so fun to see this. This is why I love catching up with you all, because now I'm going to be re-energized and re-enthused knowing all of the exciting projects that you've been working on.
Yeah, so hopefully once we have a date set up, I know the construction is still going on, but as soon as it is done and we've set a date, we'll send out an invitation to everybody, and I hope you'll all have a chance to come out, because the boardwalk is really a very different experience. It's in the middle of the city, from just within a stone's throw of one of the busiest intersections in Woodbury. So it's kind of a cool place.
That's very cool.
Thank you.
So Anna and Martin are the last two people who haven't gone yet. I'll go with Anna. And sorry, there's violin now in the background.
No, that sounds wonderful.
Don't forget Mike. We'll get me there.
Don't forget Mike.
And I do see Mike now. Mike now.
There he is. Okay. And as Stephanie mentioned, thank you, Stephanie. We did our capstones in Woodbury together and have been focused on developing relationships with the city Parks and Rec department. And she lives by Tamarack, and in the middle is Joan Nichols is gone now, but the church that Joan and I both go to has been Ramsey Washington Metro Watershed sort of capstone demonstration site for rain gardens. And we've been keeping the water in the Tamarack Preserve clean because of all the rain gardens at our church. And so in a word, what I've been working on this summer is organizational, just tweaking relationships with organizations, everything from the city to Minnesota landscape alternatives, and looking at how we continue on with maintenance work, because Adopt a Drain is huge. My nickname in the Carver Lake area, because I've got 14 drains that I've been adopting around here. It's Heavy Metal Mama. I could change my name again from Nana B to Heavy Metal Mama. And so the Carver Lake parking lot is being redone, and the whole park is shut down through October. And so the work that's being done is all kinds of pollution control and erosion diversion. And so looking at how what we do as water stewards and as conservation district partners and as educators, quite frankly, is how to educate the public to come alongside the organizations that still do have the money and people who have to do it. It's their job. Like, Charlie has to play the violin now. That's his job. How do we keep the orchestra going? Who's conducting whom, and what does it cost? So I've been trying to infiltrate, pun intended, the organizational structures that are required for both implementing change. Like you mentioned, Joan, your streets are being redone. Well, how do you come alongside and put in things like Wonderful Ben and his scruffy prairie for a while, and not have everything be Carl Forster grass on city boulevards, So it's a challenge, but I appreciate the camaraderie, and again, reinforce what is being done with watershed partners. And thank you, Angie, for making those notes, and the really high-powered speakers who do hydrology as a living. It's just amazing to me to see. And it all comes down to things that we can do in our own backyards, in our own neighborhood, and in our own cities. So bravo, everybody, wherever you are, Stillwater, Lake Elmo, all of the above.
Yeah. Well, and I just want to put in a plug for next month's Watershed Partners meeting, because we're doing a special roundtable on diversity and inclusion, and going to have 3 different speakers talking, state demographer, the director of the Capital Region Watershed District, and they're located in central St. Paul. So they just worked really hard over the past several years to come up with a really good racial equity, diversity, inclusion plan. And I'm forgetting who the 3rd speaker is, but in any case, it's going to be, when I send out the education updates, it will be in there. But, Martin.
Yeah, hi. Martin Hindman. I live in the Lake Elmo community. I have a property that runs alongside Lake Elmo itself. And on the other side, at a higher level of elevation, I have a lot of farmland which regularly use a lot of fertilizer. And when it rains, the fertilizer comes off directly off that field, and it runs into a channel that goes into my backyard. So my capstone project is to create a series of rain gardens which capture excess water and hopefully fertilizer. I built that this year, so that the construction of those rain gardens on various terraces is complete. And what I was hoping to do was to involve friends and families and children of friends and family to do a combination of buckthorn removal and then planting prairie grass and other things around the area. That didn't happen with the COVID-19 and everything. So instead, I just sat back and watched it self-seed. I'm on the wind flight path, so to speak, from the Lake Elmo County Park, and they have so much wonderful stuff over there. I'm a direct beneficiary. So I kind of have a mini prairie grass environment that's sort of self-seeded around the rain garden area, and actually coming along quite nicely. So I think what will happen is that when it's safe to bring people together, I'll probably continue with the buckthorn removal, but then go through and weed things which are invasive or aren't part of the plan. So we'll see how that goes. But the thing that did happen this summer, which is really interesting, Angie, I don't know how much you know about the controversy around the runoff from the local lakes into Lake Elmo. There was a lot of activity and money spent drawing off excess water from, I can't remember the lakes, there's 2 or 3 local lakes, where they had evaluated the quality of the water to be substandard, and with various, excess fertilizer, bacteria. There's a whole bunch of things, check marks that these other lakes had, which Lake Elmo didn't have. And the Lake Elmo City Council met within 24 hours, collaborating with the Valley Branch Water District, DNR, I think, were consulted. And within 24 hours, all 3 lakes had mechanical equipment installed to draw excess water directly into the drain system.
Oh, wow.
And then running into Lake Elmo, right?
Okay.
Now, the local residents were furious because this whole idea of, this kind of planning, documentation, none of that was brought in. It was just rushed through, and we suddenly saw all this activity 24 hours after the Lake Elmo City Council had met, whatever that meeting was. I'm not even aware. However, the interesting thing was, being a water steward, I thought it'd be useful to try and infiltrate into the protagonists. And there's some very strong voices around Lake Elmo. I'm not one of them, by the way. I'd rather listen. But there were very strong voices, and we do have a lake association, but it was very passive throughout the whole 2 or 3 days. And what emerged from that weekend, long weekend, was 2 or 3 owners who clearly have got more influence with the Lake City Council and Mayor than others. So I introduced myself to them and started a dialogue with these 2 or 3 characters. Very good. I mean, good people. They're environmentalists. They want to see a lot of more strategy around drawing off excess water. If the water is tested, they want a sort of an environmental impact assessment attitude towards the test, rather than saying, yeah, check, we've done the tests and we're going to draw it off anyway. So I've been talking to these 3 characters, and we're going to put something together which we'll take to Lake Elmo City Council to say, if this happens again, which it will, we really want there to be much more of a method, a procedure where the local residents and the Lake Association can be consulted before rushing any of these emergency decisions in the future. And it's going to be interesting to see what that policy document will say, and how it aligns with the Valley branch, which I hear has got more authority on this topic anyway. So I'm definitely on the side of the local neighborhoods. I could reach out to Valley branch, but I think it's more interesting for me to see how the residents are thinking about the water quality issues around Lake Elmo, and then seeing if their policy guidance aligns with the Valley branch actual guidance, which I'm sure they have somewhere. So
wow.
It's been an interesting summer.
Yeah, that will be very interesting to see how that goes down.
And Martin, just a quick connection. When Angie sends out the information from the speaker today, her whole effort is pollution that goes not only in the lakes and the surfaces, but also the way the wonderful waters do in the Tamarack, the old swamp. It's not a swamp, it's a fen. It moves, and we're finding more and more of this pollution is going down, especially nitrates are going down into the groundwater. And so there are protocols to go along with the public procedures and the policy that would be helpful for you to be informed about as these people. So, and the MPCA, the Pollution Control Agency, has the means to the end of working alongside. It truly could be, you know.
Yeah, and the three characters, they're
the characters.
well, I don't want to mention their names.
Yeah, sure.
They're well known. They've been here for generations. A very strong family connection to Lake Elmo. They're strong proponents of doing the right thing. They just don't have access to the right information right now.
Exactly.
And there's definitely a them and us attitude. The fact that Lake Elmo City Council rushed things through without consulting the local families did not go down well, because that's not usually the case. There is normally a consultative period, or they just scrapped that this time around. So these families were a bit upset about that. But anyway, go back to your point. I think there's a great opportunity to have the flow of information go the other direction too. Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so Mike joined us late, and then Gabriel joined us late. So I want to give the two of you time to introduce yourselves, and hopefully we'll have 5 minutes or so left at the end that we can kind of talk about what next steps we might want to do if we want to try to schedule another group meeting in a month or so. That was just my long preface before I let you go, Mike.
Sure. Thank you, Angie. I really appreciated listening to everybody. There's a couple folks we're definitely going to need to follow back with and have some sidebar conversations. As introduction for folks, this last year I joined the Lily Lake Association here in Stillwater as a board member. And one of the things from our previous meetings with this program, I had looked at doing a shoreline habitat wildlife restoration project. And so when I joined the Lily Lake Association board, one of my first questions was, well, when the board gets behind a project, how do they come up with a process for looking forward? They usually look backward a year, see how we did, look forward a year and kind of think, well, what would be nice to do this year? And they really didn't have a long-term process in place. And we launched a conversation the end of this past year, and that resulted in a surprisingly deep and broad effort this calendar year, is what it now looks like it's going to take, for a process that my wife Barb has largely led to do extensive planning and to bring in community engagement with both the water quality, the surrounding watershed, neighborhood recreational and education needs, and wildlife habitat. It's more expansive than the Lake Board has traditionally seen itself, but we think it has a great deal of promise. Our local city councilman has been engaged with us, has a lot of excitement. The people we've run ideas past through as initial types of projects that we might bring up in conversation with the public to keep conversations moving are very exciting. Some of the things that Tamarack Nature Center has implemented are things that people have tossed out as directions we may go in the future. It's really exciting to see what you're doing up there in Tamarack. Again, we're an urban center with a lot of resources, multiple ownerships, which is kind of one of our entanglements that we're learning a little bit about. But we're hopeful that in addition to doing some small scale piloting that we are starting with just a few of our neighbors on the end on private land for buckthorn removal, garlic mustard, and some other invasives control, that this coming year we would get a public ownership, broader prospects for other projects, and for the projects such as mine in that context, we might borrow a little bit of that together apart approach. I think I have a thought about dividing our woodland areas into grids and having people adopt a grid for 1 to 3 years for invasive species removal and control. And that would be a way of adapting with the COVID era a little bit. So that's, oh, and I've also bought a brand new buckthorn puller, which is a new design a fellow here in Washington County makes. It looks a little, if any of you know what a log jack is, it borrows a little bit on the old design of a log jack, but very heavy, easy to use. I'm pretty excited about it. That's my new toy. I'm very excited. Die, buckthorn scum, die.
Yep.
There is a group of citizens in Newport who actually got that printed on T-shirts, and they all wear them on their annual buckthorn.
Yes, my kind of people.
Event. Yep. It's great. They all show up in their matching T-shirts, you know, the once a year when they do their buckthorn.
I saw an obituary end with that rallying cry, and I thought, I didn't know this person, but by golly, she was my kind of woman.
I just got my chainsaw tuned up so that if you find female buckthorns that are, 4-6 inches, I'm your metal mama. Okay.
Oh my God, I love it.
So
Gabriel joined us and he said that his mic isn't working. So I do know that he finished a native planting project at his property, and I'm going to butcher it. Is it Lake St. Croix Beach or is it St. Mary's Point? I always get the two confused and they're right next to each other. But he was working hard on that during the summertime. Lake St. Croix Beach. There we go. And I was getting the play-by-play updates of the native planting as that was going in. So that is very exciting to hear about the project everybody's been working on. I mentioned that I had several updates, which a lot of them are already in the email and I can send out. And what I'll do also is just everybody who was here in the group today, put like your name next to your email. So if there was somebody who was talking that you had an aha moment and you want to follow up with them, you can do that, like reach out to them directly. Barb, I don't want to put you on the spot, but when you and I talked on the phone, you were telling me about that cool conversation process that you would use with Lily Lake Association. And I just wondered if you might want to mention it as something that we could consider scheduling a follow-up meeting and trying out that approach.
All right, so I think we talked about a couple of things. You want to tell me which one you're talking about so that I can tell them more? Was it the strategic, the SOAR process?
Yes, yes.
Okay, all right. So the SOAR process is a strategic planning process, but it is unlike the SWOT. You may have heard of SWOT, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. SOAR is based on appreciative inquiry, so it's a more positive thing. SOAR meaning strengths, opportunities, aspirations, and results. So it helps people define what they want and less about what they don't want. And then the idea is, well, I combine it with a different kind of facilitation, which is called convergent facilitation, where you actually create a list of things you want before you do any brainstorming. You create the criteria. It's like creating a target, so that then when you ask people to create some kind of a proposal, then they're aiming at a target they know everybody already agrees on, so that the process welcomes dissent and incorporates it. And that way, when your project, when you decide on what to do, pretty much everyone supports it. And you can just go ahead without those people that will backstab and saying, whine about what they didn't get. You know, it's not a majority rules. It's everybody has to put in what they want and what they need.
Okay. And now that you said it, now I realize that I think maybe I was actually thinking of the other thing. The one where you were talking about I know, I'm sorry. The project, how you were like, am I blooming or am I fading?
Oh, the eco cycle. You're talking about the eco cycle?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
All right.
Because I love that also, but I was like, oh, I feel like the other one seemed more relevant to
the eco cycle.
Where some of the stewards are at.
Yeah. Okay. So the eco cycle is a way of sort of mapping out where you are on a project, and you're looking at, it's in the shape of an infinity symbol. So you're looking at what's just starting, like a seed. You know, what ideas do you have that you're just starting? And then there's things that have, you know, taken root and they're growing. And then you have mature projects, and you have projects that have pretty much, you know, they're ending, or they're not useful anymore, that things have changed, so that you just need to like compost them, right?
Right.
This was the one when I was talking to Barb, I was like, oh, I feel like this could be a useful exercise for,
yeah, it really could be.
I feel like everybody here is probably somewhere on this spectrum of either, you know,
we always are.
I'm just getting started, or like, oh, I've been doing a lot and I'm kind of burnt out and now I'm not sure what to do.
Right. Yeah. So this is something we could do in about 45 minutes in a call, where we each sort of map out our projects. And the other important parts are there's at the ends, there's a rigidity trap where you keep doing the same thing because it always worked, but it really isn't working anymore. And you know, kind of resisting changing it or dropping it. And the other end is the poverty trap, where you really want to get something started, but you're lacking time or expertise or money or something, you know. And so being able to map it all out on a sheet of paper, even a small sheet, helps you see where you're at and where you need help. And you can actually show it to people and say, this is where I need help. Yeah. So it's quite useful. And because it's ecological, it really appeals to people like us.
Well, yeah, exactly. So the clarifying question that I had for you that I should have asked when we were on the phone, if we did like a follow-up meeting as a group, would everybody be able to map their own project, or would we have to pick one? Okay.
No, everybody should do their own.
Okay, good. Because I was like, it won't work if we all have to pick one person's project, because everybody's going to want to do theirs.
No, we should look at our own. And yeah. And then I would recommend we have breakout rooms where we actually share with each other and get ideas from each other. Yeah. About how to break through those traps.
How would people feel about trying to schedule something like that maybe a month from now?
October-ish.
Okay.
October-ish. Mm-hmm. And I can, you know, talk with you offline, Barb, about.
Yeah, I've got a handout that I just need to adapt a little bit. And then we can. Everybody, I would ask people to do a little bit of homework thinking about their project, so that it's faster to map it when it comes to the time to doing it. Yeah. Yep. Okay. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, we're coming up on 6, and I want to be respectful of your time and the fact that you're probably hungry and either need to eat dinner or getting started making dinner. I know that I do. So I just want to thank you for joining, even if it was just for an hour. It was, like I said, for me, it was energizing to it's been kind of rainy and gloomy, and I've been starting to feel a little lonely and forlorn doing education by myself for so long now. So it's, you know, it's fun to hear what people are working on, and kind of inspiring to hear about the projects you've got going in your neighborhoods. And thank you for all of this, you know, zest and energy that you're putting into resource protection and engaging your neighbors. It's pretty cool. So
Thanks. It was good.
Thank
It was helpful.
yeah. Any other last shout outs, questions, or whatnot anybody wants to do before I did, right after we started, about 5 minutes in, I thought, oh, I should record this just in case
I saw that.
somebody wanted to remember what somebody was saying. So, so I did real quick record that so I could send that out also.
Good.
So I just want to say, if anyone wants to try the EcoCycle sooner than that, I'm willing to talk you through it and go through it.
Okay. Yeah.
If you feel like you're in a planning stage and you just need a little perspective.
Yeah. Yeah. I love the way it sounds, and it's like, in my mind, the only trouble is thinking of which project to choose, you know, like there's a million and one different projects that I've always got going on at the same time. So it's like, ooh, which one would I apply this concept to? But, okay. Well, good night, everybody. Go cover your veggies.
Thanks.
It's supposed to frost tonight, so go cover the tomatoes and pumpkins and everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank
Very
you.
much.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye,
All right.
everybody.
Okay.
Bye-bye. Good to see
Bye.
you.